going to call the meeting of the Police Records Management System Oversight Committee to order June 14th. And can we start with a roll call, please?
Berlin.
Here.
Conroy.
Here.
Fieldman. Franz.
Here.
Moranowitz. Martinovich.
Here. Wells, Martinovich.
McPherson.
Here.
Mendrick.
His better half is here.
Ritz.
Here.
Scalera. Senate.
Here.
Zerwin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Outstanding. On to the order of chairman's remarks. Since the last time we met, just a few changes in our police ranks in the county. Chief of Willowbrook, Bob Scheller, retired, and Lauren Casper was appointed deputy chief. She's now the chief of police of Willowbrook. And then Steve Herron, longtime chief in the county in Roselle, retired, and Rob Loretto was just sworn in just the other night. So we welcome them amongst the ranks of the finest police in the country. Do we have any public comment?
No.
Okay, there being no public comment, we will move on to approval of the minutes. Someone second. A motion in a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that's our approved. We will move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is a discussion starting with general PRMS updates.
Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you, Chair Berlin. Good afternoon, everyone. So if you don't mind, Chair, I'd like to do 6A, 6B, 6C together.
That's fine. Okay. We can combine all three.
So we decided to really put together a presentation for you all. We haven't met in quite a few months. There has been a lot of activity within the PRMS space. So we decided to put in a presentation form and kind of flow through each of those topics and allow for you to ask, any questions that you have, and we'll answer them. So the first and probably most important piece is to let you know that there has been staffing changes. We'll cover staffing changes and project updates. So first start with the staffing changes. So previously, Dave Jordan functioned in the role as PRMS manager. Dave's probably been with the organization for about 8 years in this role. And Don Ehrenhalf, who was our newest member, was the principal business analyst. Adam, the DBA, Fred, the system admin, and James Wilkinson did really report writing for the most part. You go back to the last one. So this old structure is going to look exactly like the new structure, but the big difference is who's in certain roles, and the titles have changed. Roles and responsibilities are very different than what they were before when we first started supporting the PRMS environment. Database management was super important. So having a senior DBA, database administrator, participate was very important then, right? It was older technology. It required more care and feeding than the new system does. We're very different organization. The application is different. How it uses the database is different. So wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. Next slide. So we have made some adjustments. Don Ehrenhalf, who's over here to my right, for those of you who don't know Don, is our new police records management system manager. Don comes with years of working with law enforcement through the court system, very analytical, very strategic, one of the best communicators that I know. We felt that kind of skill set was important. We have our police agencies, specifically 30 of them, and there's 6 other agencies like the State's Attorney's Office that use the RMS system, but they're getting more savvy. They are asking more questions. They're requiring more of us. So Don was tapped to kind of help with that change and that evolution in who we are as an RMS organization. So Dave Jordan, who has years of experience, is still with our organization. We thought that was important to us, to keep him around, to keep the history that he has, the knowledge that he has of not only the system, but also the agencies and all of our RMS policies. So essentially him and Don kind of did a shift, and Dave is what I would say the front person of RMS. He's working directly with the records managers, the police officers who are using the system. Fred is still in the same capacity, but we've given him a little more responsibility and a little more structure. System admin supports the application. He's the more technical person of the group. James Wilkinson, who was a report writer, is still a report writer, but he, again, has a more elevated role. He will do data analytics, and he also will take on the responsibility of managing the database. This is a plus to us. We bumped him up, gave him more responsibilities, and we did away with the more senior level position. You'll see when I go over the budget, that then results in savings for us. So we save a few $1,000s a year. It saves the agencies a few thousand, save the agencies some cash in their budgets by reducing the staffing costs. And then we are creating a new role, which is the application support specialist. So because the agencies are more involved, they use the data more to, I guess, manage their day-to-day operations. They're requesting more of us. We're getting a lot more tickets, support tickets to help them with reports, help them with data, help them with other things. So this role is essentially a person who does lower level application support, but really focuses on handling tickets quickly and resolving issues quickly for the agencies. So that's what that role will be. And this is the new structure and what we think will be the best organization to support our PRMS users. So before I move on, at the very bottom, if you look at the notes, by restructuring the organization the way we did, we're going to save the consortium $41,000 a year. So, any questions before I move on? Okay, all right, moving on. All right, so wanted to give you an update. There are 3 major projects that we have been involved in and that we've been giving you updates on for the past year and a half now. The Illinois NIBRS reporting tool implementation. NIBRS is essentially a state requirement. We have been working on implementing the tool, and we've had a lot of success. We certified with the state of Illinois in April, working with Carol Stream to certify on behalf of the entire consortium. We have to report data that has less than 4% error rate. We had less than 1%. So but I think we did well. Now we're working on having all of the agencies, except for 6. There are 6 agencies who decided to continue to manually report to the state, which is completely up to them, and it doesn't cause any problems with us. I think they just want that control, which we're comfortable with. But all of the rest of the agencies will report through the new tool and through us. So we're working to move them over to NIBRS. The official launch of that is in August. Once that happens, they can report directly to the state using the tool monthly and annually.
So with those NIBRS reports, is that going to the state police again, or is it? I'm sorry, I forgot which agency, so I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah, go to the state police.
And we had some significant issues with that early on, but they worked out. We get 1%. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So technically, and I'm not going to throw you under the bus, but I will. So technically, there were 0 errors. Don made a mistake, kind of just a manual mistake, and we couldn't change it, so we had to go with it. normally can go in and make edits, but the change he made couldn't be reversed. So we would have been 0%, but I'll do 1%.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, it was. But let me say this. So the great thing about it, because Mark brought it up, it was a collaborative effort. So it was the RMS team working with police chiefs directly, and then working with their staff, so the records managers and some of the police officers, to figure out what the issues were and to work through them. Chief Shar, actually of Winfield, thank you. I was going to say Wheaton, but not. Of Winfield took the lead there and worked with us directly and helped us with the state and really with the agencies. He was the voice that reached out, that communicated and brought us all together. But that input and having them directly support us the way they did, actively support us the way they did, helped with us to get to where we are now. So I think we're in very good shape. If he was here, I'm sure he would say the same, as well as the other chiefs that were part of the good group.
Okay, great news.
All right, the second one we talked about as well a lot, and we had issues as well. On-call analytics, OCA, you'll hear us say the OCA project. That one was completed. So again, in collaboration with the police chiefs, this one was led by the Darien PD Chief Thomas, and we've worked through a lot of issues, but we were able to wrap it up and close it out. So now they have on-call analytics in place, and they're able to really drill down and use the PRMS data in a more analytical way than they did before. So a lot of benefits to the new version of OCA that we have in place. And then last but not least, any questions about on-call analytics? The last project is really the big one. We call the really mother of these big projects. Anytime you upgrade an application to a new version, it takes a lot, right? It takes a lot to transfer the data. It takes a lot to upgrade the system. The users have to learn a complete new process, new system. So this one's a big one. There's two phases to it. The first was the hardware refresh, which was completed in partnership with ETSB and actually led by ETSB. And that went very well, and it's completed. So we have our hardware infrastructure in place. The second part, which is a little more involved and deals with the software, we are scheduled to move that project forward in August. So, and the goal is to have the upgrade completed by mid next year to late next year. It's going to take some time to make sure we have all requirements in, make sure that everyone's trained on the system, make sure the data is clean, make sure that we are going to work with the agencies to have them actually come in and test the system before it goes live thoroughly and give us as much feedback as possible. So we don't want to rush. We want to take our time and do it right. So that's why, if you ask, why aren't we doing it faster? It's because we want to do it right. Right? We want to take the time, do it right, go through different iterations to get it to the place it needs to be. This is number one, the right way to do it. Number two, this responds to some concerns that I've heard about in the past for some of our other upgrades, right? With Don's leadership, Don will be the project manager and has helped implement other projects in his previous career and here as well. He's going to help with the details. He's the details guy and help us lead the way in partnership, of course, with our police chiefs and police agencies. So those are the three big updates on where we are. We are wrapping up the two big projects from last year, and we will be starting an even bigger and more complex project starting in August. Any questions? Yep.
This might be extremely technical, and I'm sorry if it is, but curiosity with the new software coming online, Is there any connection to, I know a lot of agencies use evidence.com through their Axon product. Is there integration with that? I'm just curious. I know the state's attorney's office uses their evidence.com portal stuff too. Just curious if there's any tie-in or not. I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
but you know, Don, are we
Non-existing.
Okay.
Non-existing.
I don't know if integration is possible. I believe evidence.com is proprietary.
I believe that's correct, but I just curious.
Yeah, no, and it's a good question, and I think it's since you brought it up,
Yeah.
it's something that we are looking at in conjunction with Linda and ETSB. There are other applications that want that will have to integrate or request to integrate with both the CAD system and the RMS system. So we are trying to stay ahead of that game, and we're trying to be strategic and think about what those things are and how we can integrate with those systems. Hexagon has an integration platform that potentially we can use for some integration. So we're going to start there and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I would say everything Anthony said, it's costly.
Yeah,
most interfaces run between 30 and 50,000, and then maintenance every year. And so that's up to the agencies, whether or not they want to do that. So we've had, although a lot of the interfaces that we originally thought we were going to do, we did not do because they just weren't, the return on investment for the cost wasn't there. Although you're seeing with the way applications are today, when the chiefs go to different conferences, they see different applications, they come back. And so we're looking at vehicles to make that go a little bit smoother to get them connected, which is complex too. So
I was just curious.
we have a number in the queue, right? We have 3 right now waiting to interface.
Yeah, it's a good question, and the committee will be hearing more about those types of integrations in the past. I do want to just throw out this one small warning. It may seem easy, and the vendor who's selling the agency their product, they're going to tell them each and every time it's the easiest thing in the world. They've done it 1,000 times. They have all these customers who can attest to this. It's never that easy. It's a lot more complex. We are I don't know if you all know this, the largest Hexagon consortium. And Hexagon is a huge organization with close to 36 participating organizations, 30 law enforcement, and another 6 other organizations. And if you look at the CAT side, it's even larger, 62 agencies that they deal with. That means a lot of complexity, a lot more than dealing with one agency and their requirements. We multiply that times 62 or 36, and it just creates a little more complexity. It may take more time than that one would think. So,
yeah, one of the challenges is there's a lot of real-time applications now, which when it's one agency and 30 officers may be asking for real-time data, that's one thing. But when you have 62 police and fire agencies all wanting real-time data, that's a large pipe, that's a big tax on the system. So the system that Anthony referred to with Hexagon Informer allows us to create interfaces that if these applications are causing a problem, we can kind of gracefully unhook them without impacting CAD, which is the primary mission of being able to deliver the dispatch. So it's gotten a little bit complex as the apps become more sophisticated. How do we meet those service needs of the things the officers want and the chiefs want without impacting the system, because it was designed one way. We got to look at that future growth.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, not a problem. Good questions. Any other questions before I move on? Sure. Next slide. Awesome.
Frozen.
Let me share.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. So next part of the discussion, we're going to go through the proposed RMS budget for FY 2024 and highlight the changes and the details. So in FY 2024, there is a slight increase to our budget request. The majority of that amount, which is only 3% increase, $51,000, is due to the new software contract that we executed last year. I think The majority of it is the software. There's a small increase in benefits and salary. So our team received some increases, and we brought in Don, which was new. It was a new role, so that also increased our overall costs. So we are increasing from $1,746,304 to $1,797,682. So again, a 3% increase from last year. And in another slide, I'll show you our projections over the next 4 years, so you get a sense of what we've done in the past and what we anticipate in the future. The primary expenses for us, by far, this makes up probably 98% of our budget. Salaries, the maintenance, the software contract is the biggest, and then the equipment replacement amount that we're budgeting for each year.
Does that come from the $40,000 savings that you showed from?
It does, yeah. Okay. Any questions before I move on? No, okay. This one's an eyesore even for me. So sorry about that. Next one. Then is the next one. Yeah. So this one's even an eyesore for me. So I'll give you a chance to look through it. But we wanted to be as transparent as possible. We'll put this, of course, in our packet when we submit the minutes, so you can look at it in more detail. This basically is just the detail behind our budget. So for transparency, we wanted you to see that. It shows all of the lines that are included. If you look at the ones that are highlighted in red, those are the two areas where we're actually giving back dollars. So our salaries overall are down by $7,366. And then there is a application that we no longer need. It's really maintenance for the ISP reports that they replaced because of NIPERS. So that's $14,000, $14.4 thousand that we no longer require. So those are the things that are helping us drive down. There's if you look at benefits, our benefits are slightly up by 17%. So can't really control that one. And the increase in one staff member increased that. And then the RSA piece, which is also associated with our software support, is slightly up, and that was part of the contract that we signed last year. So those are the things that drove us up. Overall, though, the increase is only 3%. If you look at the last three columns, those are the projections from FY25 to FY27. I want to highlight a couple of things. We threw in a 5% increase each year. That may not be the case, but we wanted to make sure that we plan for any increases in either software or salaries or anything of that nature. If we don't have to increase, we're not. And we're always trying to negotiate and bring things down when we can. So try to be as efficient as possible. So it shows a 5% increase over those next 3 years, where it looks like, if you look at the last row, that's the cost per user. So that's what each agency pays per user. And it basically shows that from FY 2023 to FY 2024, there was small increase. It was $29.77 per user increase. But if you go all the way out to FY 2027, it looks smaller. So it's lower. The reason it's lower is because we don't have the equipment replacement dollars in there. It ends. So we need to at some point talk about that, whether we need to put it back in, whether it should be that amount or not, or should it be a different amount. So we left it out for now. And then the RSA, who supports us, the contract ends before that, so we left it out. And we think that we may need the RSA at that point, but we're not sure. And if we can build internal expertise to do a lot of that, we may not need it, at least from the RMS, RMS side.
That runs through what year?
2027. Oh, you mean the RSA 2026? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, our current contract ends in 2026, so that's why we cut it off at 2026. Yeah. All right, so as we get closer, of course, you're going to change projections. As a committee, we'll talk about what makes sense and what we should do. But, you know, I just wanted to give you the perspective of kind of how we see things over the next 4 years. Okay. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns?
I appreciate the in-depth.
That's it.
That's great.
Good. So, but again, when we give you the presentation, you'll be able to see it better. It's very small. All right. If there are no questions, next slide. Okay, this is the equipment replacement fund. If you remember, if you look at the intergovernmental agreement, it says that for I think an 8-year period, we will put $400,000 in, and by the 8th year, we will have $3 million in there. So that did not happen because last year the committee agreed that we would use funding from the replacement fund to fund the upgrade. So the upgrade, total cost of the upgrade was $815,214. So last year we took a big dip out of that fund. It leaves us with a current balance of $985,785. If we continue along the same path of contributing $400,000 every year, we'll have $2,584,785 in there. So roughly $414,000 short of what we committed to in the IGA. So when we talk about the IGA next, we'll talk about that and whether we want to. If we keep the IGA the way it is, we're going to have to make up the difference. If we revise it, modify it, you know, we may not have to do that. I think that's definitely possible based on the projected, you know, cost over the next 4 or 5 years. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, just so everyone knows, the IGA expires April 30th, 2024. Automatically renews as of May 1st for 1 year unless the committee determines otherwise.
And subsequent years after that, or is it just
Subsequent years,
okay.
every year. Okay. Yeah, all right, got it.
Before I move off of this one, any questions? Nope. All right, next slide, please. Okay, renewal recommendations related to the IGA. Next slide. So these are just talking points. I think this part of our discussion is really open to thoughts and ideas. Want to talk about the IGA in general. The chairman just did a great job of letting you know. I was going to talk about that in future considerations. We're up for renewal. So there's a few things I think we should talk about as part of that renewal. We can allow it to expire and then the automatic renewal kicks in, or we can make it better. And my recommendation, the team's recommendation, is for us to make some revisions to the IGA this year that makes us puts us in a better position as an organization, but also helps the agencies that are part of the IGA. So I'm gonna jump over the first two, just jump into considerations. There's a few different things that you should be aware of. Number one, out of the 30 police agencies, there is one agency that has decided to leave. So at least not be part of our Hexagon contract. So I don't know how it's, and it's something I had to talk to the state attorney's office about. How do you still participate in the consortium but not contribute, right, to the cost of the Hexagon contract? I don't think that's possible. But anyway, that's what they decided. We need to talk about how that affects the rest of the consortium, and then how we address those kind of requests moving forward. I think that we need to have a more formal structure within the IGA that encourages agencies to work with us, because your leaving the consortium has a direct impact on all the other organizations there, right? It also has a direct impact on law enforcement's ability to share information and do predictive analytics, things of that nature. If you're not part of the consortium, your data is not there, it's having a negative effect on it. having 30 agencies participate, share information, share data, help each other, collaborate is a super positive thing for DuPage County. It's something I think we should continue to do. So I think as part of this new agreement, we need to put language in there that request that if they have issues, concerns, they formalize those issues and concerns. And then B, they give the team an opportunity to rectify whatever those concerns are before they decide to move forward. The impact also needs to be in there, what that impact will be to the organization. So I think that's the biggest thing that we need to address. We also need to address how it impacts the other organizations. So one organization leaving, there's a minimal impact, and Don, I forgot the number. Yeah, no, if that agency leaves, they increase, their per user cost increases by, I think it's a few $100 per user per year. So it's relatively minimal is what I'm trying to get to for one agency. But if multiple agencies leave, then it's a bigger impact. So a couple things we need to talk about that and what else should go into it. We're not prepared to talk about all of our recommendations, but we wanted to bring it to you as a board to let you know that we would like to work through it with the State Attorney's Office, come back to the board with our recommendations on what changes we should make within the IGA. And then, of course, you have to present it to the agencies, and you would, instead of just redoing the existing contract, make the modifications and extend that with them moving forward. So, any general thoughts, or I don't know?
You hit it on the head for everything. I mean, Lisa, did me and you talk about anything else that?
Well, I think there's a lot in the agreement that could be updated from
correct.
where we are now from where you guys started.
True. And I mean, we have
Now we
changed
got some
it.
history.
You have history, you see what works, what doesn't work, right?
And I think it was 3 million, you said, was that?
$3 million
That's what I
for
thought,
the
okay.
equipment.
I have it in front of me, but I haven't found that provision yet, I apologize.
An opportunity for us to make the modification to that equipment fund and how much we contribute every year. So
6.04.
Oh, thank you.
Is there a termination provision? Like how does a community pull out of it? Do they have to pay a fine?
there's not a fine, and I don't know. I'm gonna
So
defer.
what I remember, and Mr. State's Attorney, please correct me if I'm wrong, or Ms. Smith, is that they have to give notice. I think it's before the renewal part of April or something along with it, right around there. And Linda, you can correct me too. So you have to give that year notice, hypothetically, pulling out.
November.
It's actually November 1st.
So November.
Writing prior to November 1st of the year, immediately preceding a renewal of a successive term of the agreement.
So that this agency would then they'd be in for next year, and they'd move themselves the following year?
Well, I think that might be the question, because the one agency who's given notice, hypothetically, my understanding is they're not going to be out next year, right? It's still a couple years away. So I think that might be a clarity point that we might have to look at for the contract.
And they've been paying into this equipment replacement, those funds stay in. So in a way, we have the benefit of keeping those funds unless they're going to ask for them back. And I think we've got to, I don't know what the mechanics of that are.
I'll defer. I don't remember that being the case where anybody could pull it out.
Yeah, I don't think there's a mechanism for that.
And I think we should be strategic about encouraging folks to stay in. I'm really disappointed that someone's pulling out this shortly after getting all the work done and collaborating and all the training and didn't really give it a chance to succeed. I think that's really disappointing. So I was going to say one other thing too. I think one of the things we might want to acquire is some training. It seems like we are pulling police departments to train, and they need to do it. They need to step up and learn the systems. I'm sure you've got 1,000 examples on your side of the. But this is a good way to maybe tighten that up and require that someone from each agency becomes the point person and helps us get the most use out of the system that we're all paying for.
I think that's a great recommendation, something we've talked about. So we are increasing training, but it's not mandatory. Right. And I think it has to be in the agreement somewhere.
Sorry, I guess we're all trying to discuss and actually see each other.
Yeah, we have found that.
No, I was just saying, Anthony, like one of the things that you said about the entity require, if there is somebody that wants to switch, but you should be given the opportunity to correct, or there should be some type of guidance in the agreement on how you take care of that.
Right.
You know, give them notice, give them a period of time to
remedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, and that's not the case. So for that particular agency, and I don't want to focus on the agency, but for that particular agency, we did recommend sitting down with them to figure out what the actual concerns were. And we wanted them in writing, we didn't get that. So
I think you're also, even with the notice, there needs to be some language, because as we know, these things take time. And you could go, it takes us 1.5 years once we award a contract to sometimes configure these things. So I think agencies that think they're going to move don't really understand how much work it's going to take. And so they could, even though they give us notice, so we probably need to have some sort of mechanism in there that creates that notification where they give us status as to where they're at, because you do need to plan for the other members, and because there's going to be a cost impact there. And so there's some responsibility to leaving, if you're going to leave, to keep the consortium informed as to when that might hit and when that might change.
any other thoughts, comments?
I don't know, Lisa, if you had any other notes from what we discussed, or Mr. Berlin.
I have not heard of anybody else considering leaving. So I had a meeting recently in Glen Ellen with Hexagon, talk about issues, some of the issues. From what I've seen, there's been a lot of progress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we have made progress. And let me just add to that, not only have we made progress, I think that this committee should be aware of, and somehow we need to communicate out to the agencies as well, is that I've been in the IT business for 26, 27 years. I've managed a lot of contracts, a lot of vendors. There are no perfect applications. You have to, it's a active thing where you have to meet with them, work with them, push them, make changes, make edits. They may go off and sign up with another company. They're going to have similar issues, or maybe different issues, more complex issues. It's never perfect. That's why IT's around, thankfully. To help work through those issues and try to fix the problems. We made a lot of progress. Some of it was leadership. We've made adjustments to leadership on both sides. So Hexagon has replaced some of the people we felt were not effective and brought in more people. They've been way more responsive. The whole purpose of that discussion, which I think says a lot about Hexagon and their partnership with us, is their leadership came to listen and hear what was going on. And you know, they gave it to them, but that's still a good thing. That's how you make progress. They can hear what the problems are and they can fix them. Most companies won't do that. They won't show up. They'll show up once a year, renewal time, right? It's time to renew, and it's time to get a check for the next renewal. So to Hexagon's credit, I think that they have stepped up, things have changed. You have to give the team and the vendor a chance to fix things and for things to get better, and I think they have.
So we'll stretch that out a little bit more for maybe Kat.
We had talked about dealing with capital costs in the case of like somebody going.
Oh, yes. It was a, then, yeah, yes. Is there a penalty? Is there a penalty? Is there additional? So yes, that's exactly the capital cost. So Mark, I think brought that up pretty well.
Yeah.
So you've taken, if you remember that slide, you've used a substantial part of the equipment replacement fund for this hardware upgrade. So that's something to consider, because they've paid now, and any group that's going to leave, that's the money paid toward that upgrade. So they were there when it was happening, and that's their contribution. So there's some calculation there, I think, as to what may or may not actually be remaining when you look at those columns of what everybody's contributed. Because if you take the cost of the upgrade divided by the number of users and deduct that from everybody's, sorry, math, and deduct that from what everybody has contributed, there's not that much left over for any agency once you divide it by the whole number. So I think that's some of the language that probably needs to be detailed in there now for when people are leaving. And remember too, particularly for people who are new and weren't around for this discussion, the part of the reason there is an equipment replacement fund is that this contract is under ETSB. So ETSB cannot fund report writing or just a portion of it. So we split that cost since we're the contract holder. And so what the state's attorney wanted to do was set up a way for this group, this consortium, to act independently. Should you decide to go someplace else with a different software, then you have money in the bank for that. And then ETSB, even if you stay with Hexagon, kind of stops being the bank of ETSB in terms of reimbursement, because that money's there and there's a guarantee, which satisfies FCC and state regulations on the use of surcharge. So that's kind of where it's at. And now, talking about what we know now, the fact that there is a consortium, if you stay with this product, maybe you don't need that much money sitting in there in the future. But if you think you want to go out and buy something else, then you have to think about that too and how you want to fund it. So Anthony and I had a lot of talk about how that would work, because you probably could have enough without having $3 million to at least start a new contract and fund it later, now that we're here today. So some things to think about might give some relief, which is always good, because that's a big number. That help you with a little bit of background.
Yeah. Definitely.
So you'll hear more from us. We'll, over the next couple of months, sit down, talk, and formalize our recommendations for modifying the IGA. We'll also send a copy of the IGA out for you all to review yourselves, so that you're familiar yourself again with it, or if you're new, if you haven't seen it. So,
Not really related, but can I also ask for an updated committee list? And all that, so we keep track of who's who. My colleagues are not here. Although I miss a better myself.
I had to go and come back.
Yeah, that's right.
And then what's the plan for approval of the budget?
So we will ask for formal approval in our next meeting, which I think is September, right? It's September.
That works out timing wise.
This was just a preview, and
whenever somebody you have and you're willing to share, then those that aren't here can catch up and be ready for September.
Yeah, we'll send something out, and if they have any questions, I'd love to meet with them and go over it there. So I'll make sure we put that in our communication.
So the community that has opted to opt out did so before November 1st of this year. So next year they're in. So the earliest they can leave would be November 1st of 2024.
No, it wasn't. It was November actually last year.
Yeah.
It was last year.
Yeah, so
So technically
technically should be this year.
it could be out, but right.
Yeah,
Okay.
But I think the next phase,
Because they're not ready.
Okay,
Right.
Not really.
Right.
And it's not really, it's a little bit of them, but to be honest, it's the application. So the application that they're looking at is not mature enough, not as mature as the Hexagon application. They made promises that over the next year or two, they'll get there.
Always looks great in the demo.
It always looks good.
well, Linda, to your point, but it would be nice to have a status on when you think that could potentially happen.
Right. When we're doing this language, that was something that we talked about, discussed, of keeping an updated, keep notifying and informing the committee of where they're at, what the status of their departure is upon giving notice.
Right. Well, I think this committee, is there a confidentiality clause here or something? But if we got that letter back in November, we should probably share that letter with this committee so we were aware of it. I just learned about it a couple months ago.
There's no
I think it's something we should share. We need to be aware of it. Thank you.
Should I ask them for an updated status letter, and then that can be published with both of them?
Maybe even a clause that says we're still open to resolve your issues if you want to reconsider.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
Chairman, that was 6860.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay, any old business? None, new business. New business? A motion and a second to adjourn.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Did we introduce the new members?
You know what?
Not officially on, just
Yes.
roll call.
So
New business.
Yeah, let's do this.
It is new business, right?
Still new.
So you leave today.
So we have Jim Ritz, right? The city administrator, Oak Brook Terrace. Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome aboard. And
Jody Sennett with
yes,
Elmer's Police
Jody Sennett with
Department.
Elmer's Police Department. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, second.
No, we didn't.
Voice is fine. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. And see everyone, September.